Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq issues 2 royal decrees. The Ministry of Health announces 738 confirmed cases and 8 deaths of COVID-19. Governmental and local efforts are continued in dealing with the effect of the tropical condition in the government of the FAR. And the number of recovered people around the world from COVID-19 exceeds 2.7 million, and a number of countries continue the lockdown procedures. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq issues 2 royal decrees. Royal Decree number 59/2020 on establishing a special office. Article 1 establishes an office called Special Office directly related to His Majesty, and its organizational structure shall be issued by a royal decree. Article 2, the specialization of the special office shall be determined in accordance with the attached annex. Article 3, the special office shall have a chairman who shall be appointed by a royal decree, supported by a sufficient number of employees from various specializations related to the work of the office. Article 4, provisions of the law relating to the financial system of the Diwan of Royal Court, the law of after-service benefits and gratuities for the staff of the Diwan of the Royal Court, and the law on the staff system of the Diwan of Royal Court referred to apply to the special office and its employees. The chairman of the special office shall have the minister's powers stipulated in these laws. Article 5. This decree shall be published in the official gazette and shall come into effect from the date of its issue. Royal Decree number 60/2020 on appointing chairman for the special office. Article 1 appoints Dr. Hamid bin Saeed bin Sulaiman Al-Ofi as chairman for the special office with his same rank and financial allocations. Article 2, this decree shall be published in the official gazette and shall come into effect from the date of its issue. The Ministry of Health announced 738 new confirmed cases of COVID-19, which brings the total number registered in the Sultanate to 13,538, including 67 deaths. The Ministry of Health stresses that 2,845 cases have been recovered.
Within the efforts to limit the spread of COVID-19, the ministry advises all citizens and residents to keep on washing hands with water and soap. Avoid touching the face, nose, mouth and eyes. Follow hygienic habits when coughing and sneezing. Adhere strictly to social distancing instructions. Stay at home and not to go out unless absolutely necessary. Adhering to isolation and social distancing will prevent you, your family and the community from COVID-19. Stay safe.
The exerted government and civil efforts continue in various wilayats of the Governorate of the FAR to contain the impacts resulted from the tropical depression. The Governorate of the FAR witnessed recently light to heavy rainfall, which causes wadis and tributaries to overflow. Rain station in Jabal Samhan Dam in the Wilaya of Mirbat recorded 1,055 millimeters of water, while the amount of water in other wilayats ranged from 200 millimeters to 600 millimeters. The wilayats of Dalkut, Taqa and Mirbat were affected by the tropical depression like the other wilayats in the Governorate. Roads in these wilayats were damaged and power was cut as many electricity and lighting poles fell down due to the flooding wadis. The internal and external road networks there were severely affected by the wadis, in addition to water pipelines and telecommunication lines, as well as other services. The Far municipality, in cooperation with private sector establishments, exert tireless efforts to repair damages resulted from the tropical depression. Director General for the Roads and Transport works on repairing roads in the 3 wilayats, and a number of roads are already fixed. The houses were badly affected by the tropical depression as they were staggered by the water in all wilayats. Oman oil price August delivery increased 40 cents from yesterday, reaching $40.85 per barrel. The average price of Oman oil July delivery reached $33.68 per barrel. The novel coronavirus has killed at least 380,428 people since the outbreak first emerged in China last December. Almost 6.4 million cases of coronavirus have been registered in 196 countries and territories. Of these, more than 2.7 million are now considered recovered. The United States is the worst hit country with 106,181 deaths from almost 1.84 million cases. At least 463,868 people have been declared recovered. After the U.S., the hardest hit countries are Britain with 39,369 deaths from 277,985 cases, Italy with 33,530 deaths from 233,515 cases, Brazil with 31,199 deaths and 555,383 cases, and France with 28,940 deaths and 188,332 cases. Europe overall has 180,209 deaths from almost 2.2 million cases. Latin America and the Caribbean, 54,871 deaths from almost 1.1 million cases. Asia, 17,265 deaths from 534 cases. The Middle East, 9,833 deaths from 427,035 cases. Africa, 4,483 deaths from 157,874 cases, and Oceania, 131 deaths from 8,599 cases. Italy reopened its borders to European travelers today as the continent slowly emerged from quarantines to result battered economies, even as the coronavirus pandemic carved its deadly path through Latin America. European nations among the hardest hit by the outbreak have mostly flattened out infection curves and turned to the task of balancing economic recovery against the risk of a second wave of cases. Across the globe, nations are cautiously reopening schools, businesses, and returning to life after months of quarantine. Italy, the first country badly hammered in Europe, is leading the way to restart, hoping tourism will revive its recession-hit economy 3 months after the nation's shutdown. International flights were only expected to resume in 3 main cities, Milan, Rome, and Naples, and some of Italy's neighbors are not yet ready to lift travel restrictions there. The United Kingdom is looking closely at air bridges to enable some people to travel, but airlines should not be using the government's job retention scheme as the way to cut thousands of staff. A junior transport minister said today that the government plans to introduce a 14-day quarantine period for almost everyone entering the country from June 8th a step airlines have said threatens their business just as they grappled the shock of the coronavirus slump. Callie Thornhurst told Parliament it was right time to introduce such restrictions. Lawmakers across the House of Commons repeatedly criticised British Airways for cutting staff, with some suggesting the Civil Aviation Authority should review its landing slots as ways to put pressure on the company over its staff cuts. British Airways said in April it planned to axe up to 12,000 of its 42,000 employees, downsizing in preparation for the much smaller travel market, which is expected to emerge after the coronavirus pandemic.
Non-compliance with the directives of the Supreme Committee dealing with coronavirus COVID-19 exposes you to risk and legal action. Stay safe.
The United Nations warned today that its programs to fight the coronavirus in Yemen might have to stop by the end of the month unless they get an immediate injection of cash. The warning comes a day after UN appeal for countries to fund emergency aid in the nation fell $1 billion short of what aid agencies needed, $2.41 million to cover essential activities from June to December. The spokesperson for the UN Officer for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said this will severely handicap efforts to contain the outbreak, which is already spreading rapidly. Russian warplanes carried out the first airstrike in 3 months today on the last remaining rebel stronghold in southwestern Syria. The airstrikes, along with the ground bombardment over the past few days, have forced hundreds of people to flee their homes to safer areas further north. The airstrikes on the near Idlib province were the first to be conducted by the Russian planes since a truce brought relative calm on the volatile region in early March. The truce brokered by Turkey and Russia halted a terrifying 3-month air and ground campaign that killed hundreds and sent 1 million people fleeing towards the Turkish border. Idlib, home to some 3 million people, many of them internally displaced, is also a stronghold of the Al-Qaeda-linked militant group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Turkey has thousands of troops deployed in Idlib. Coronavirus hit Mumbai appeared to escape the worst of Cyclone Nisarga today as the first severe storm to threaten India's financial capital in more than 70 years left it largely unscathed after ripping roofs of buildings in nearby coastal towns. Mumbai and its surroundings are usually sheltered from cyclones. The last deadly storm to hit the city was in 1948, but authorities evacuated at least 100,000 people, including coronavirus patients, from flood-prone areas in the state of Maharashtra and Gujarat. The storm made landfall near the coastal town of Alibag, around 100 kilometers south of Mumbai, in the afternoon. In the crossed Maharashtra coast, with its path veering to the east of Mumbai and gradually weakened by the evening. This is the Sultan of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq issues 2 royal decrees. The Ministry of Health announces 738 confirmed cases and 8 deaths of COVID-19. Governmental and local efforts are continued in dealing with the effects of the tropical condition in the governorate of Dhofar. And the number of recovered people around the world from COVID-19 exceeds 2.7 million, and the number of countries continue the lockdown procedures. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the studios and the newsroom, it's good night.